This is just a sample of the audiobook. To get the complete audiobook, access the link posted in the first comment.
In southern Greek world could understand much Macedonian, a distant Hellenic dialect less akin to proper Dorian or Ionic Greek than an Arkansas twang is to Oxford English. To the Greeks, the problem with Macedon was not its harsh and mostly incomprehensible language, much less matters of race, but its culture. Specifically, there were no true city-states north of the Greek border with Thessaly, just hamlets and villages of the poor, juxtaposed to the few vast estates of the horse-breeding rich, all overseen by a conglomeration of warring and often petty monarchs whose palaces and tombs today constitute most of the archaeological record of ancient Macedonia. Philip had united these lords into a real kingdom, and he had brought Hellenic artists, philosophers, and men of science to Macedon, subsidizing the Greek influx of talent with booty and stolen gold. Thousands of hired Greek scientists and craftsmen eventually accompanied Alexander and his Macedonians eastward to ensure technological and organizational superiority over the Achaemenid armies. Diades, the Thessalian siege engineer who took Tyre with his colleague Carius, and the other designers, Philippus and Posidonius, Gorgias, the hydraulic engineer, Dinocrates, the town planner who laid out Alexandria, Baton, Diognetos, and Philonides, who systematically organized camps and surveyed routes, the naval experts Nearchus and Onesicritus, Eumenes, the head of the secretarial service, the natural philosopher and historian Callisthenes and his assistants, and Aristobulus, architect and engineer. The Macedonians had also hired thousands of southern Greeks in their army, from mercenaries to scientists, all seeking a steady wage and the patronage of the royal house. Whereas the Peloponnesian War, 431 to 404 BC, fought for principle and leadership of Greece, had nearly wrecked the old Greek city-states, Alexander's nakedly predatory rampage in the east had the opposite effect of creating, not consuming, capital for the Western world. Where Philip and Alexander drew the line on the imported Hellenic tradition was, like the later Japanese, politics, ta politika, matters of the polis. From Greece, Philip had been a young hostage at Thebes, 369 and 368 BC, during the heyday of the brilliant Theban general Epaminondas. The king welcomed the phalanx, and with it the tradition of large infantry musters, decisive head-on assault, disciplined ranks, and the beginning of real tactical maneuver. From Greece, Philip embraced the rationalist tradition and the disinterested pursuit of science and natural inquiry apart from religion and government. Only that way might he build elaborate siege engines and torsion catapults. From Greece he adopted the traditions of individual initiative, coupled with ironclad military discipline that put more emphasis on group solidarity than the number of enemy killed by heroic warriors. In that manner he might recruit and train spirited phalangites who would charge into a wall of spear tips on his orders. Before the battle at Gaugamela, Alexander reminded his hired mercenaries that they were nonetheless free men, in contrast to the Persians, who were felt to be mere slaves. While not a single man had voted for Alexander as their king, there was nevertheless some truth to what he said. The legacy of Hellenic freedom was not to be defined entirely in political terms, but, as Aristotle noted, as doing as one pleased. Alexander's phalangites, like the hired 10,000 earlier, enjoyed a liberality of association as they held spirited and boisterous assemblies, voted on proposals when it was convenient to Alexander, and at royal banquets and sports enjoyed a familiarity with their betters unknown at the Persian court. It would turn out that even hired killers who were not citizens eventually became disgusted with the growing Orientalism of Alexander and the revolting custom of proskinesis, or a free man's kowtowing to another as if he were a living god. Philip, however, had no interest in civic militarism, civilian control over his military, or abstract political freedom for his soldiers, the entire baggage of the weak and squabbling city-states. That distrust he taught Alexander, and he added one brilliant piece of propaganda as well, the great idea of a pan-Hellenic crusade into Persia, a final Götterdämmerung that would pay back the Achaemenids for the burning of the Athenian Acropolis, revenge their enslavement of Hellenic Ionia and a century of meddling in Greek affairs, empty the Persian treasuries to enrich the Balkans beyond imagination, and provide a final unification of all Greek-speaking peoples, a real nation.